Welcome back. It's been fun being here this week and doing this filming and telling you about some of the things that have been on my heart. And I wanted to talk to you about the recent trip that my sister in the Lord and I made to Israel. Rick and I are going to be talking about that again in a few days. But we went to Israel in March for a month. Now, this is a long story, and I'm so sorry I forgot one little artifact I want to bring with me. But I'm not going to drive 4 hours home to get it, so deal with it. Anyhow, I've been going to Israel since 1984, almost every year. In those goings, I have met so many wonderful people. What happened was, I think in 2000, 2001, I came across this guy in Israel whose name is Halav. And he is a really sweet little guy. He is married, lives in a suburb of Tel Aviv, and he's a secular Jew. But he's a Jew, a real Jew. He loves his country, he loves his people, and he's ardent Zionist. So he had these bumper stickers made. They were like small bumper stickers, about this big, and they said in big letters, white on blue, and then blue on white, CNN lies. Hang on. Well, I loved it when I found out about those bumper stickers. So I got in contact with him, and I got some of the bumper stickers from him. And so it became my mission in life. Every time I went to Israel, I would put those on the bumpers of the UN vehicles. And let me tell you, there's a ton of them there. The last UN vehicle I put one on was a big truck going across the border at Rosh Hashanah, going across the border into Lebanon. And it's a great big dump truck, and I peeled the sticker, walked behind it, slapped it on that truck before it crossed the border into Lebanon. I'm sure that they wondered who the nut was that was doing this, but I just needed to do it. Sometimes you kind of lose control and you have to do these things. So over the years, Ailey and I have become friends. We had never met until after David passed away, and I went back to Jerusalem to close the house down, and Ailey and his wife Tanya came up to Jerusalem to meet me. We had a great conversation, and over the years we've kept in contact, albeit very casual. So because of our interaction, mine from Oklahoma and his from Israel, he has watched things happening here in Oklahoma as well as I watch things happening in Israel. So over the years, as we've had disastrous tornadoes and that kind of thing here, he has honored me by sending me a check, usually in a generous amount, and asked me to be his emissary to find someone that was damaged in the tornado that really needs this extra push up. Well, I've been honored to do that. It's been a great opportunity to do that. And so I've had fun in doing it. I trace the people down. I ask a lot of questions. I find out those who really need help. And then I give them the check along with a letter saying where it came from and why, with his contact information. Unfortunately, no one's ever contacted him with an appropriate thank you. So shame on you if you're listening. So when we were going to go in March, I just sent an email to Ellie and told him, I'm coming in March, like to see you. He wrote back and said, as a writer, because you are a writer, I'd like to borrow your writing expertise. And I'm always up for that. Well, almost always. I'll qualify that a little bit. Almost always when somebody says that to me. And I do write. I've written these books, which I'm supposed to be giving commercials on, but I keep forgetting to do it. Genesis Triangle is the story of Rachel, Leah, and Jacob and the beginning of the 12 tribes. Prophetess is the story of Miriam, sister of Moses and Aaron, and the 40 years on the desert. And Valor, this third one, is the story of Abigail and David, their whole story. So I've written these books. I have some more to write. And then I said when I'm through writing them, I'm going to die because I'll be too tired to do anything else. Well, as things go, we made an appointment to meet up with Ailey. He wanted to take us to Gush, Halav. That's Gush, capital Halav. Now, Gush Halav is a Christian village. Eli is a secular Jew. But as I said, he's an ardent Zionist. He wanted to take us to Gush Halav to see what was there, because at night they put up on they're northern Israel, and they're kind of a mountainous little community. It's all Christian, 85% Christian. And every night on top of this church at the highest point of their village, a cross is lighted, and it has it looks like this, and it has a large white star outlined in red, and then two smaller stars, white, outlined in red. And you can see it for miles in the valley. He wanted us to see that. He wanted me to write an article about it. So Eli picks us up at Nafkinesar, where we're staying for a couple of days, and takes us there. Eli is an interesting driver. Traffic in Israel is insane. You have to pretend like you're Mario Andretti to survive there. And he's more like a stagecoach driver, slow one. So we make it 45 minutes from Nafkinesar to Gush Halav. Gush Halav is only like maybe 10 miles, perhaps 15 at the most, as the crow flies from Lebanon. So they're very northern Israel. They're on the northwest of Safat, which is one of the holy cities of Jerusalem, or of Israel. So we go there, my sister and I, and we go with him to this village, and we get there just before sunset because he wants us to see this cross lighted at night. Our host, wonderful Christian man, does not speak English. So we have a situation where Teresa and I are together. We don't speak enough Hebrew. I speak enough to pick up some words, but not to get the full extent of it. So Eli is translating to all of us. We park as we come into the village because he doesn't want to drive in this traffic. I would have driven in it. And so our host picks us up in this truck. It's a landscape truck. He's a landscape person and apparently very successful. Anyhow, he hauls us around in this clackety truck, and he's explaining everything to Eli as we're driving through the village, I should say. As I said, well, it goes 85% Christian, 15% Muslim. So he takes us to this church. They're Catholics, Maronite Catholics. And he takes us to this beautiful limestone church. And there within the church it's gorgeous. And it's like 30 years old, something like that. It seats 400 people. But I noticed on the end of each pew are chairs. And so I asked, well, are these chairs here for ushers? Or is it overflow? What is it? Well, as it turns out, it's overflow. Every Sunday, they have more than 400 people there. And it was just before Good Friday. And they were preparing for Easter services and all this other stuff. And he told us, he said, at Easter time, we'll have over 1,000 people packed in here. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, it must really be hot. But it's also the simple fact, as I said, they're Catholic, they're Maronite Catholic, and they really have a love of God. So I asked him, our host, I said, do you feel intimidated at all by the Muslims? Have they given you any trouble or anything like that? And he said, no, not at all. He said, we live together peacefully. We are a Christian village. We're not Arabs. We're Aramaic. And we have been here for years upon years upon years. And even through the wars, they've been there. So I looked it up when I got home. I looked it up on internet, and I began reading up about this village because I couldn't even understand the spelling of it prior to going there. So he's telling us all this stuff. He drives us around the village, and then he takes us to his home, which is lovely. Gives us some of the most delicious cookies. Yeah, I know, I needed a cookie. Gives us some of the most delicious cookies that his wife had made, and talks to us about what goes on in the village. Every few months, his wife, along with several busloads of women from the village, get on nice buses, and they go to Lebanon, to a special place in Lebanon where they have this women's Catholic thing, and they go for the day, and then they come back. Sometimes they stay over. There's never any issue. There's never any problem. They go, they worship, and they come home. So while we're there and we're hearing about all this stuff, because it's leading up to Easter, while we're in this church visiting it and looking through it, we hear this thump, 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 thump. Well, we look outside, and it's a drum corps of probably 30 kids, high school kids. And here they are lined up, 2 rows, and going thump, 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 thump on the drums. And pretty flat, actually. And they have a lady leading them. And they're going to march and play the drums. March and play the drums. So our host is explaining to us that on Easter, they take a cross, a large cross, and they walk up the winding, climbing streets of this village to the top of the village, and they raise this large cross there at this church, the highest point in the village. And while they're doing this, they're accompanied by this drum corps going thump, 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 thump. And all the villagers line up in silence to watch. Nobody's forcing them to do it. Nobody's holding them back or pushing them to do it. I mean, it's a free will thing. But they watch because, as I said, they're Catholic, they're Maronite Catholic, and they're celebrating their Messiah. Well, we were pretty impressed. And some of the kids in the drum corps were pretty cute, and they were working really hard. We saw a lovely rose garden that they had put in there on the grounds of the church. I can't tell you how nice it was. There was not the screaming of the mezuzah or anything like that. It was just nice. Now, there was a mosque in the town. There was a mezuzah, and we saw that. But predominantly Catholic churches. So when we finally got around, we waited until dark to go up the mountainside to this cross on top of the churches that I was showing you a while ago. And it is like this. It's the cross on the top of the churches. And it's, as I said, it was the highest vantage point. So here they are, these 3 crosses. Every night, all year long, they turn on these crosses at dark. Across the valley is another mountain. Down in the valley, no matter where you look, until your sight line is blocked by a mountain, you can see these crosses. And it's their witness to the valley. They're protected by the army. So when we were talking to these kids in the drum corps, one little gal came up. She was just darling. And she was a graduate, high school graduate, and she was going to go on to college, but she's coming to America for a year just to explore. And her English was very, very good. And they were explaining to us that these kids have started learning Aramaic. They start like in grade school. And the Israeli government has encouraged them to do it. Now, Aramaic is allegedly the language that the Bible was written in. And it's one of those lost languages. There's very, very few things written in Aramaic. And yet they revived it just as they did Hebrew. And with the encouragement of the Israeli government, these school kids learn Aramaic. Now, can you imagine learning Aramaic and then being able to read the Bible in it? Because they speak Hebrew and Arabic. Not a lot of them were speaking English, but the Aramaic as well. That's quite a blessing. And it's a blessing that's being bestowed upon them by the Israeli government. So as I said, when I got home, I began looking at this little village to see what I could find out about it. Let me just share this with you. Gush Halav is only about 15 miles from the Lebanese border and dates back to 2000 BCE. BCE is before the Common Era. I mean, that's older than I am. Can you imagine that? It's really old, 2,000 years before the birth of Christ. Okay. Its population of 3,078, that's according to the 2016 census, is 85% Catholic, Christian. Most of the Christians are either Maronite Catholics or Melkite Greek Catholics. The other 15% are Muslim. The village is mentioned in the Mishnah as Gush Halav, a city surrounded by walls since the time of Joshua ben Nun. Now, I didn't see any walls. It's a wide open village. I am sure that there are walls there somewhere if you have an archaeological dig going on. I didn't see them. But I will tell you that because it is so mountainous, you have a house, a house, a house, a house, and these little narrow streets that run in between. So that at one point when we were going up the mountain to where the church was, that he wanted to take us to where these crosses are, he had to one time back up and do it again to get enough oomph in that little chunk pickup of his. And so we did that. And one time he had to pull over and let somebody else by because the passageways are narrow. And yet, as we're driving through, it's dark and we're looking into the shops, which are still open. Nothing closes in Israel early except on Shabbat, which is on Friday, depending on at sunset on Friday. So we're looking into the stores, and the stores are just as modern as yours and my stores, and what they're carrying. They may not be as big and beautiful as our stores, but they had clothing, they had furniture, appliances, food stuff, alcohol, anything we could buy here, they can buy there. So there are 2 old synagogues that have been found in the town, uncovered by archaeologists, and it's an interesting little town. It's not a poor town. They're very comfortable there. So when we were at his house, the host's home, his wife came in. She had gone to a meeting, and she came in while we were there, and she does speak English. And so we had a nice conversation with her. Now, I have to tell you, the home is lovely. I don't think they're very, very wealthy, but they obviously are comfortable. And the home is lovely. And she had a nice car she was driving. She wasn't driving that chunk truck. And in her conversation with us, we asked her about the little trips into Lebanon and how that was. And it's kind of like a fellowship of Catholic Christian women. There is a sense of hospitality, a sense of unitedness there. Both our host and his wife were born and grew up there, and they've raised their children there in Gush Halav. Oftentimes it's referred to as Jesh, Jesh. In fact, you see it. I couldn't find it on the map until I was looking for Jesh, and then I found it quite clearly. As I said, it's northwest of Safat, if you're looking for it. So I said to her, so how is life for you here? Do you feel any kind of harassment? Do you feel any kind of oppressiveness or anything? From anybody, from the government, from the Muslims or anything? And she said, no. We're very happy. We're very content here. We have everything we need or want. Isn't that cool? Now, one of the reasons that Eli wanted me to write a story about the Gush was because he wanted to be able to send this story out over to Fox and CNN and whomever else he could, to publish it, that in the Middle East, when everybody else is killing their Christians, chopping their heads off, crucifying the children, doing the horrible things that they're doing, in Israel, they are welcomed, they're encouraged, and they're protected by the IDF. He wanted the world to know that. And I felt honored that he wanted me to tell the story of Gush Halav in northern Israel. And so I did that. When I got back to Jerusalem, I sat down and I wrote a quick little story and got it to him because I knew he was excited and he was eager to get the story out. And I was eager to help him. He's been such a blessing to us. And so I was eager to write the story. We also had taken with us a camera, a movie camera. We took some video clips. Unfortunately, they didn't turn out very well. But we did take some video clips of it, and I didn't bring any with me. I'll see if I can email some to Rick. But just to let you know that in Israel, all faiths are welcome, all, including the Muslims who want to kill every Jew. Now, their ideology is not exactly embraced. But they are welcome to come there and to live there in freedom, as long as they're willing to let the Jews live in their freedom and to be Jewish in the Jewish country. The Temple Mount in Jerusalem, where the temple once was sitting, the Temple Mount now, where the Jews go to the Western Wall to pray, is nothing more than a retaining wall for this huge pile of dirt that Herod had added to the temple complex. Christians and Jews are allowed to go to the temple wall, to the retaining wall at the Western Wall and pray. But let me tell you what's not good is we're not allowed to go up onto the Temple Mount where the Dome of the Rock is and pray. Oh yeah, we can go up there. But if I go up there as a Christian, wearing a cross, or wearing the menorah, or a Star of David, or anything that indicates Judaism, I am not allowed on that Temple Mount. If I go up there and I have a Bible in my hands, oh no, that's not allowed. If I go up there and I am walking around and I look like I'm praying, I'll be arrested and escorted from the mountain. It makes me a little angry. In fact, it makes me a lot angry, because what we have here is in the land of Israel, where Christians and Jews and Muslims can worship freely everywhere except on the Temple Mount. And then only the Muslims can worship there. And they don't always worship. We see videos of them playing football and doing silly things, having picnics and everything on this holy of holy lands. And they've built the Dome of the Rock. The reason it's called that is there's this giant rock there. It's a traditional site of where Abraham offered up Isaac. And they built this dome over it. It's not like the Seattle Dome. It's a dome. It's a place of worship, and it's a gold top on it. You've seen pictures of it 1,000 times. And they've desecrated the holy place. When in 1967, when the city of Jerusalem was reunited, and for the first time, Jews could go into the old city freely, and they captured it. They also captured the Temple Mount. But for whatever reason, Moshe Dayan gave control of the Temple Mount to the Waqf, the Muslim Waqf. Israel owns it. There's no question that Israel owns it. Not only did she buy it and pay for it years and years ago, she's paid for it again and again and again in blood. But it does belong to Israel, and yet for some reason Moshe Dayan, not a religious man, gave control of the Temple Mount to the Muslim Waqf. Nobody ever believed, and I don't believe he even had any concept of what a hideous hot spot it would become. So here you have, in the heart of Israel, on a mountaintop, you have this Temple Mount where only Muslims can go up and pray, and yet it's Jewish. It belongs to the Jews. And in northern Israel, just a stone's throw from Lebanon, you have Gush, Halav, which is an 85% Christian village, and anybody can go there and worship. Jews, Christians, Muslims. They're all welcome. They're all protected. They're all embraced. Really? And what does that say about these different faiths? I think it says quite a lot, actually. And I think it's a huge disappointment. So that cross that shines so brightly in northern Israel needs to reach the hearts of some of those Muslim people that are protecting this giant rock. It's a rock. Well, anyhow, I can't tell you what I wish would happen with that, but I will tell you that there is freedom in Israel. There's freedom in Gush Halav. Israel needs to be one whole country, not split, not divided. And in these last few weeks, we've seen heartbreaking examples of the hatred that the Arabs are showing toward Israel with the kites that are Molotov cocktails flying into Israel and crashing and catching fields and forests on fires, homes. Thankfully, nobody's died. Several people have been hurt. It's disgusting, beyond disgusting. It makes me very angry. But I would ask you to pray for Israel. Pray for her leadership, that they can be united and that they have the wisdom to know how to stop some of this stuff coming out of Gaza. It's really nasty. Remember, Israel gave up Gaza in 2005 for peace, and they've had very little peace since then. It's a sad, sad story, and it is not Israel's fault. They gave it all they had. And so now I'm going to close today with this, but I would like for you to come with me to Gush, Halav, to visit with the Christians there and to see for yourself the freedom they live in. There was not any sense of danger anywhere. In fact, we never felt any sense of danger on our trip at all, except maybe for us when we went down to Caliber 3 and were playing with the guns. Maybe we'd shoot ourselves. But it was a great trip. It was a lot of fun. And I encourage you to go if you've not been in Israel. I encourage you to go and to go as soon as you can. If you go with either a Christian or a Jewish tour. You need to do that if you want to get the truth. And know that it's a God thing. He always wants us to go up to Jerusalem. And so with that, I say, Shalom, Shalom, Yerushalayim. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Call your travel agent. Book a flight. You'll never be sorry that you did. Bye.